be seated. Mr. Brooks, just make your statements. What do you want to advise the court today?
Your Honor, with all respect, I'm merely asking you, do you have the full judicial power of the state, or is this military power?
You know, when Darrell Brooks asks some of these ridiculous questions during the trial, it really just kind of irks me because I don't understand why Judge Dorow even gave him the time of day. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Sight Sounds Flavors on YouTube, sightsoundsflavors.com. If at any point during this video you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Guys, you have no idea how much that helps. If you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video, plus the comments. The comments are it. So somebody asked me about the clip on military power. So what did I do? I went around and I dug around and I found it. You know, I don't know who was feeding Darrell all this sovereign citizen crap. You know, he had access to a telephone, so he could call a number of people. But word on YouTube and word throughout, you know, the comments on my other videos is that Dawn was dating somebody that was involved in this, whether currently or in the past, but somehow still had a connection. And Dawn was spoon feeding him this sovcit stuff on the phone for the next day's proceedings. I don't know if I believe that or not. You know, not because Dawn is not an enabler. She is. Not because Dawn, in my opinion, has complicity in a lot of this stuff. Maybe not, you know, him driving into people in the parade, but, you know, her calling the car and stolen, her even letting him have the car, her letting him stay with her, you know, her facilitating him getting out of prison when he really shouldn't have because he's low bonds. But I don't know. The Dawn that I saw in court, that we all saw in court, reading The Caged Bird and the few news interviews that she gave, doesn't seem intellectual enough to explain some of the sovereign citizen stuff. And I know that that sounds incredibly, incredibly insensitive, incredibly politically incorrect. How dare I assume Dawn's educational level? But I'm just going to go out on a limb and I'm going to assume Dawn's educational level. Some of the things that Darrell was saying, some of the points, even Judge Dorow and Sue Opper, but even Judge Dorow, which is more important here because she's the judge, recognized that he was at least trying to make very complex points. So even when he said he was pro-pauper instead of pro se, that's a very, very complicated legal argument. In other words, he didn't, and again, I may not even be citing this correctly. I should probably research this a little bit, but I don't care enough to do. But the thing is, he was trying to say that he didn't give up having counsel. He gave up counsel running his case. So he would have had, I think what he was trying to say is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, guys, just because I'm a lawyer doesn't mean I know everything about the law. It's just like when I went to University of Florida and my major was history. So I have a bachelor's in history. I have an undergraduate certificate in Latin American studies. There's almost a major. It's more than a minor, almost a major. And I also have a minor in political science. And a lot of times my dad would ask me a question about history, you know, hello. That hello that just passed, that counts as history. Anything in the past is history. So he would ask me a question about like something from the Byzantine Empire or something from like, I don't know, like the Nicene Council or like, you know, where was the Wall of China first built or something. And if I didn't know, he'd be like, well, you're a history major. You're supposed to know it. I'm like, I'm not supposed to know absolutely everything that happened, including that hello 2 minutes ago. I just know areas of history. So again, I don't know the history of everything, just like I don't know absolutely everything about the law. But I think what Darrell was trying to say with pro-pauper versus pro se is that he was never wanting to be pro se, meaning that he wanted to only be the only like attorney or pseudo attorney or litigator, whatever you want to call it, at that table. He would have been okay with having secondary counsel as co-counsel, as what the Canadians call second chair. And he never turned that down. In fact, that's probably what he wanted. But you know, Judge Dorow said, look, that's a very complicated argument that you're making. We went through all the motions. I explained to you that what you were essentially asking for was to be your own attorney, that nobody would be next to you. You agreed, you consented, and that's that. You know what I mean? So, but where I'm getting at with this is that some of those arguments that Darrell raised were arguments that you would see in a LLM course, like a Masters of Law course, not even a Juris Doctorate course, but a Masters of Law course, like a legal discussion amongst professors kind of thing. That's not something that you just, so somebody, I feel like there was probably some sort, and this may be something for us to analyze and explore. Maybe Dawn was dating a sovereign citizen legal scholar, and he was sitting next to Dawn when Darrell called her, or vice versa, and he was feeding. But I just don't think Dawn Woods, or anybody really, I don't even think a law graduate, well, let me not go that far. I don't think a first-term law student would be able to explain that to Darrell. You know what I mean? A lawyer, yeah, and if I did like 20 minutes of research, I could explain it. I think I more or less have explained it already, but I may be mistaken. But again, I want to know if there was actually, and let me tell you something. I know that I'm rambling here, but there are sovereign citizen scholars. And even though it's bunk, even though it's BS, even though it's completely legally ineffective, legally baseless, they put on a very, very good argument. And they're able to cite real cases. They're able to cite law that may have been law at some point. They have very good vocabulary. They're very articulate. They have all the makings and all the appearances of being a true blue legal scholar, but they're spouting a bunch of nonsense. Darrell or Darrel or whatever his name is, again, guys, I could care less what his name is. Again, sometimes I say it jokingly, I'll say Darrel. Sometimes I mistakenly don't know his name. I could care less what his name is, honestly. People correct me, I'm like, I really don't care. And it's not because I don't take my channel seriously. It's not because I don't respect you as my audience. It's because I don't like him. So if I'm saying his name wrong, if in any level that may offend him or people that like him, then I'm all for that. The reality of the matter, though, is that I think that somebody was, in fact, spoon-feeding him this. I don't know who, and I don't think it was Dawn. If you know who, leave it down below. Maybe Dawn's ex or whoever Dawn knew was sitting there with Dawn explaining it to Darrell. We should be able to hear all that stuff. If there are phone calls between Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and some loser that was selling his paintings on eBay, if that is on YouTube, we should be able to hear Darrell being schooled in sovereign citizen lingo on the phone on a jail call. Now, it may be because there's still pending cases, or it may just be because they don't want us to hear it. But they don't want us to hear it is not legal precedent. It's just they don't want us to hear it, and we can get through that. So I'm just curious who schooled him on this, because some of these concepts were kind of complex. And even though he didn't really explain them properly, it sparked the judge to say, you're making a very complicated, complex legal argument. Also, something the judge probably shouldn't have said, because I think what that did to him is it got the wheels turning in his mind. He was like, whoa, 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 whoa. The same judge that I can scare by staring down, I'm now stumping with some of my legal arguments. So again, and again, when she does this with her hair, or she stands up, there's instances where Judge Dorow stands up to talk to him. I also wouldn't have done that. The body language of her having to stand up to address him, to me, suggests not authority, rather insecurity on her half. And so then he stands up and she doesn't make him sit down. If he stood up and she said, no, you sit down, and he sat down, that would be authority. But the fact she has to stand up doesn't really, to me, exude a lot of authority. Just like her saying, this man is scaring me right now, when she should have said, I'm throwing you out. You know what I mean? But I know that some of you think I'm knocking on Judge Dorow. If I had to give Judge Dorow a grade on her work as a judge in the case, I'd give her an A+. An A. I'd give her a 97, a 98. I mean, that's not someone that doesn't think she did a good job. But, there's like little things that honestly, I think could have done better, or maybe shouldn't have been done at all. And for example, when Darrell Brooks asks her, like, is this a military, do you have military power? Is this an admiralty court? I'd have muted him right there, because that's nonsense. But what do you think? And who do you think was feeding Darrell Brooks the sovereign citizen mumbo jumbo? Do you think he learned it on his own? Do you think Dawn was giving it to him? Or do you think it's a mystery sovereign citizen scholar that we don't know about?